Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first night of the virtual leg of the 2023 Chattanooga Film Festival. I am Aaron Cowan. I spent about 10 years in Chattanooga and worked with the film festival from 2016 to 2019. I'm an artist in Las Vegas, which is where I met Johnny Disco, and I'm the creative producer for the tribute to Johnny Disco. Coming to you from the heart of Middle Tennessee, where whiskey is safer to drink than the water from the river. Thank you so much for choosing to join us in conversation with Hollywood's most famous extra, Johnny Disco. I'd like to welcome Johnny here to join us and share some of his experiences and respond to some questions that we've sourced from the audience. Welcome, Johnny. Glad to have you.
Hey, I'm welcome to be here. I want to thank Chris Storch for accepting me in the CFF Film Festival, and I'm glad I can get out there and tell my story.
Yeah, really excited to have you and so glad that, yeah, they've been really open to, working with us. So, yeah, so we'll get
I'm
started.
just not I'm just not used to talking parts.
That's right, because you were an extra, right? Didn't really give you too many
Yeah,
parts.
being an extra is like being Charlie Chaplin of the 20th century. You know, I came in as a movement master. They'd say, Johnny, can you do that? And I'd say, I can. And then three other people would raise their hands saying they can. And unfortunately, in Hollywood, people in the background lie about what they can do. And the truth is, when I stepped in and said I could do something, I did it, and I did it with visual acceptability. And that's what directors look for.
Interesting. You mentioned you were a movement master. What does that mean exactly?
It means that when you don't speak, but you have to say something with your body, then
Mhm.
you'd use your body to make that come known to the people who are watching it. So I took mime when I was young and decided that I liked mime and I could do that. So if somebody says, can you be a robot? I would become a robot. They say, can you bowl? I can bowl with a ball or without a ball. Can you swing a bat? I can swing a bat or I can swing a bat without having a bat. Can you throw a ball? I can throw a ball. And then I danced and I roller skated and I actually did mime. So basically, I would take movements and make them acceptable, visually acceptable. That's what I believe. That a movement is either visually acceptable or visually unacceptable. And when you go into a job, directors look at you and in their mind, when they watch what they ask you could do and you do it, such as, Johnny, can you moonwalk? And I say, yes. I don't look in a mirror and then do it and say, oh, I can do it. What I do is I show it to the man and he says, show me the moonwalk. I do the moonwalk and he says, you're hired. We have an umpire who needs the moonwalk. You got the job. So that's what a movement master is.
Wow. And you put all of those skills to great use in a lot of the stuff that you did, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you watch the clips, you'll see me doing most of the movement in a dance club. People say, how many people does it take to make a nightclub scene? It takes about three couples. And usually I'm the number one couple. And then I have two other couples who dance around us. And the eyes are taken to that couple. And then you move from that couple over to the actor. They do the talking and they move back to the couple doing the dancing. And basically, I was the guy who could do 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, whatever era you wanted, put me in it, put me in the clothes. I did the dancing. And the good thing about that is, as long as the moves you do are visually acceptable, nobody complains. And remember, almost every man who was behind the camera or directing couldn't dance at all.
Right. But they
So
knew good dancing
basically,
when they saw
you would think so. You would think so. I mean, that's why I did what I did. I mean, there was never a complaint. Johnny, we need to. I did a thing on Fantasy Island where we were doing the Argentinian tango. And I hadn't done that before. So I took classes for 4 weeks, came in with my partner, and we did the Argentinian tango. And the director comes up to me and he says, Johnny, we need to put you in the back a little bit. You're making Ricardo Montalban a little uncomfortable.
it.
So I moved to the back. And he said, action. We danced some more. Cut. Johnny, we're going to go ahead and just let you go today and give you a raise. You're just making Ricardo Montalban look he's a little uncomfortable.
Oh no, you
And
were outshining the star.
well, I wasn't. I just did what I had to do. And apparently he was uncomfortable on how good we were.
Right.
But I would get released off the job for being too good, but didn't get a raise for it and apologize. Sorry, we had you come in and do this,
Wow.
which made me feel good actually. And
Well, yeah, it's
Ricardo,
fair to get fired for doing your job too well.
right. And then I did another thing on Fantasy Island when I was dancing, and Ricardo walked in and said, "That guy is the best dancer I've ever seen in my life." So you get released because he's uncomfortable, but he did remember you. And being remembered as an extra is a good thing.
Oh
Just
yeah,
being there
because
was a lucky thing.
they're such, small parts that you wouldn't think that they would become a recognizable face around the sets.
Yeah, I mean, people I meet who are movie stars and I've worked with, they tried to be movie stars. They studied, they went to classes, they got acknowledged, they got known, and they became famous. I didn't even think about that. I just went out dancing every night to nightclubs and I was doing dance contests. Some guy said, you should be dancing on TV.
Right,
And I
because you were
said, why?
dancing for free.
Yeah, I would be doing hair shows and doing AM Los Angeles and going on American Bandstand and Groovy. I went on Soul Train, but they couldn't find a white partner for me, so I couldn't dance on the show. But they brought me on just to say, "Here you are." And then the guy said, "You should be on TV." He gave me a number. I called him, and I watched him dance after he said that. And when I saw him dance, I walked up to him and said, "You're right. I should be on TV." I call that the Four Cs Club. First you compare, then you challenge, then you compete, and then you conquer. And my thing is get done with the first three. Just compare, challenge, and compete. And once you start doing that, it doesn't matter whether you conquer or not, because now you're already good. You're in the game. And that's what a good extra does. We're very quiet when we walk on and we're quiet during shooting. But when they say action, know what you're going to do and do it before anybody else knows it.
That's good
Kind of cool.
advice. Well, let's see here. Maybe we'll take some of these questions that we got from our Discord chat.
I'm very interested in hearing what people had to say about what they saw.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of a buzz going on here. This one says you've been on countless sets. Was there a particular set you remember as being the most fun or memorable?
Been on so many sets, but I was on a set in Vancouver where we were escorted down by the city police and the FBI and taken into tunnels that were used to go from the harbor to the middle of the city when they used to deliver mail.
Whoa.
And then it became a drug running tunnel. And we got to work in that for 3 weeks. And just working in that kind of a tunnel system where nobody's allowed to go and nobody's ever been, that was one of the most interesting things that I did, yes. But I've been in so many sets where you work on them and then they're destroyed.
What were you working on in the tunnels? Do you remember?
It was called The Sentinel. It was a TV show out of Paramount called The Sentinel with Richard Burton. Danny Bilson wrote it. A friend of mine who is a executive producer and writer. He did The Sentinel and Viper and Human Target and Flash. And I was lucky enough to work for him.
Very cool. Let's see here. Here's a question. How many total movies have you been in?
I looked at them and I think it's about 90. I've
And there's
appeared
some
in
that you
90
can't
movies.
remember being in, or right? It's kind of an incomplete list.
It's incomplete list until I'm watching something on TV. Like this week, I was in 4 movies on Saturday. I was just going through and saw them, but I saw Worth Winning. I forgot I was in that, but I was in that. I was like in Against All the Odds, where just one couple gets up and starts dancing in front of the 2 stars while they're watching, talking about football. And I saw myself.
You're like, there I am.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm in things that I never did. I never worked. Like I was in La Bamba. It was a TV movie. And I never worked on La Bamba, but there I was in the audience dancing in my seat. But they took that out of another movie I was in called American Hot Wax, where there I was on, and I was sitting with Chuck Berry's daughter in the front dancing, and then the concert got raided, and I jumped to stage, and then I did a knee slide all the way across the stage because the cop threw me across the stage, and the director says, "Cut!" And he runs down with 400 people screaming and yelling. And he pointed at me and he said, you. And I thought, oh no, I'm fired. And this was like my third job.
Oh no.
And he said, "You're so good. If everybody does what you do, this is going to be a great movie." And I just did this with my fingers, and he said, "You got it." So I ended up with the silent bit, and I got that for 8 days until the second assistant director saw it and went, "Why are you getting a silent bit?" I said, "Because I'm the same character I was 8 days ago." He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "I'm wearing the same jacket. I'm the same guy." He said, "Oh, wow. No, that doesn't work that way." But it did. And that's $50 more per day on your daily base. So instead of $80, you're making $130 for 8 hours.
My dad's phone. So
Nice.
that's an instance where your talents kind of got you a better part. Are there any other instances that kind of came together like that, where you were doing your thing and got recognized and more came from it?
Yeah, that happened all the time. I mean, it's like I went on Heart to Heart, and I just choreographed Charlie's Angels, and it was the same first assistant director, Blair Gilbert, and she calls me in and says, "Johnny, we got a part for you today." And I went, "Oh, that is so cool." She goes, "Yeah." She goes, "But we don't have a motorhome. But I want you to go in the other room, and there's 40 extras, and I want you to tell them you're in charge, and you're going to choreograph it for me." Oh, okay. So I went back, said, "Hey, everybody, I want to tell you what we're going to do today." And they all looked at me and said, "Who are you? What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm in charge today." They go, No, you're just an extra. We're not doing anything you say." So I went back into the other set and said, "Blair, I quit." She goes, "Quit?" I said, "Yeah, I'm not going to do this. If people aren't going to work for me. They told me I'm just an extra." She goes, "Not in my mind, you're not. So why don't you come with me and don't say a word, and I'll go and talk to the people." And she walked in there and she rose pure hell at these people.
Oh, really?
And if you don't want to work for Johnny, he's in charge, then you can all get up and go home. Nobody left.
Really?
And but then they gave me a contract, and now I'm not an extra anymore. Now I'm what you call an actor. But basically, it was an ambush.
Mhm.
I mean, but to pay a choreographer to choreograph that major TV show would have cost $4,000.
Right.
Johnny works for $250 a day. It
Mhm.
wasn't about the money. I was just glad to be there. I got my foot in the door. And when you get your foot in the door, you keep walking and shut the door behind you and do whatever they ask you to do. And then you negotiate for almost every job you go on. It's kind of I wish everybody in the world had to work like that. Go to work today, and at the end of the day, walk up to your boss and say, "Now, I really deserve this much money more today because I did this way beyond everybody else." And then negotiation starts. But that doesn't work that way. You can do, in a regular job, you can be the best performer in the world, but you're still making $12.30 an hour, like the guy who did nothing today.
Right. Yeah, it can be pretty unfair.
But the opportunity to be in Hollywood, working with movie stars that you grew up with, it's like working with Pernell Roberts from Bonanza. I was a Bonanza fan as a kid. All of a sudden, I get a call to go meet with Pernell Roberts. And I went, wow. And then he go, "We want you to teach him how to roller skate." So I spent 10 hours with the man roller skating. And then they gave me a stunt, because when you skate really well, they want you to fall down.
Mhm.
When you skate really well, they dress you up in a rabbit suit, give you a birthday cake on fire, and then want you to roller skate around a bunch of little kids acting like you're going to fall.
Really?
You know,
Because not
I
everyone
find
can skate like they're falling, right?
no,
Like,
and then then another thing is you're doubling the star and he can't roller skate, so then they have you fall. I can fall. I've fallen enough on roller skates. The only thing was that I had a girl that I had to skate with, and we fell together. So I had to make sure she fell on top of me so I wouldn't hurt her.
Right.
But it was a fun job. But again, that got a contract. So all of a sudden, I'm not an extra anymore. One day you are, one day you aren't.
Is that how you got into SAG?
No, SAG was word of mouth. The producer on Charlie's Angels, the #1 show in America. I walked in. He said, "You're Johnny Disco?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "I heard you can dance with any woman anytime." I go, "Yeah." He said, "You can, right?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Okay." He gets on the phone. He goes, "Would you send Cheryl Ladd in, please?" Cheryl comes in. He goes, "Take her and start dancing." And no music. I just grabbed her, said, "Look at my eyes." And I started turning her, did this, did that, did a dip, came back up, and they go, "What do you want? You're hired." And I said, "I want my SAG card." And so there it got on the phone and said, "Yeah, we're a SAG card for Johnny Disco." And there it is, 1978.
Wow. Look at that. In the flesh.
Yeah. And I get one of these cards every 6 months, and I've collected them all. And so for my favorite fans, I'm going to sign them and send them out as a memento, because it's just every 6 months they make me pay dues. But they're going to stop when I'm 70 next year.
Why are they stopping?
Well, because I don't have to pay dues anymore. I've been in the business so long
Oh, okay.
that they'll take care of my dues now. They don't expect actors or extras to live to be past 70. It's like getting a handicap sticker for your car. And they go, they give it to him for the rest of his life. And I go, "That's really good." And then they gave me 10 years. Okay. So that means they know I'm going to die within 10 years, But I just think it's funny.
That is funny. Well, you had mentioned you worked with a DA a couple times. Were there any other opportunities you had to work with the same filmmaker more than once?
Well, like I said, when I worked and did all the work that people saw there in that show, it went all the way up until about the 80s. And then I had that dance partner that was with me, and she ran off with another movie star.
Oh.
And I was crushed.
Well,
I even called the National Enquirer and said, "Movie star steals beauty queen from extra Johnny Disco." And nobody would buy the story. And then I got really mad and told the casting people that had set her up with the guy that I was really mad at them. And then they blacklisted me. And all of a sudden, no more work. So I thought I could be an extra till I was 100.
right.
But all the work got cut off, because when the casting says you're not going to work anymore, it's just a bunch of guys who decide that. And these guys happened to be extras when I was an extra. But they really didn't have any talent, but they had connections. So they went into casting. So they kept me off the sets and off the studio, so the actor, movie star, quote, would be safe. Not that I ever did anything or made any threats, but it was just, let's just keep him away.
Do you think that was the only reason, or do you think that maybe, they didn't like you, or they were jealous, or, you said you worked with them in the extra business?
Yeah. No, these guys, there was no jealousy because they didn't have any talent. So there wouldn't be any jealousy.
Well, I would be jealous if I didn't have the talent.
But jealousy comes from people who actually have the same talent but can't get over you.
So, and
like I did dance contests, and I was jealous of the guys who won every time.
right.
Like Denny Terrio, Shabadoo. These guys would beat me. I was a little jealous, but I just got better.
So they were maybe envious of you.
Yeah, but it was really nice one night to go to a dance contest and find out Denny never showed up. There are famous people, but I was jealous. But jealousy comes with everything that you do in life. You get jealous, but you just overrun it. But these guys said they'll keep me off the sets so that this actor feel comfortable.
Right. So you wouldn't come and beat him up or attack him or something.
Yeah, because when he stole my girlfriend and I went back to work and I was working, actors would come up to me and directors and extras and say, "Hey, that actor that ran off with your girlfriend, he's over there. Go say hi." Okay. And I'd walk over and I'd see him, and he'd get real, like he ran into me in the bathroom at Warner Brothers. You could just see in his face, he was afraid, and he was much bigger than me, and he's a big, strong guy, but he knew what he did. And when you look in another man's face and he knows what he did, he gets nervous. So then he made a call, somebody made a call, bam, no work.
Wow.
But then this filmmaker, Danny Bilson, who was an extra and he worked with his father, we got together and we worked together and as extras. And I found out that he was doing The Flash, and I went by and saw him, and he made me a stand-in. And if you saw the show that here, you'll see all the extra things I did in that. I've done one of the shows, I was myself, the star, and the guest star all in one episode, and there's no credit for Johnny Disco anywhere.
Wow.
And he kept me to work, so I made more money as an extra that year than I ever made. So, but when you're blacklisted, it doesn't matter, because once you're requested through Central Casting, they can't deny a request.
Really?
No, because if you can prove that the executive producer goes, I called for Johnny Disco, how come you didn't send me to him?
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that 10 of the jobs that you're watching in that salute are spec jobs. That means that Central Casting did not send you out for that interview. If Central Casting calls you for an interview for a TV show, you get 1/3 of a check for going to the interview. But I was not allowed to go to the interview and get a check. But I could spec it and speculate. I would go there and spec it. No money would get, no voucher for me. But I got the part myself anyway.
Interesting.
So the one that I was in, Matlock, where I was the executive producer to 3 networks and stabbed in the back, and the whole show was about me being killed, I spec'd that job and got that job. So Central did not think I was right for it, but out of 40 guys they sent, I got it.
Interesting.
Jagged Edge, same way. I spec'd it. They didn't put me on the interview. And out of the 9 guys they put in the graduate student circle, I got picked for it. That was 3 weeks' work. And then there was Pray TV. They said I would be good in the choir. I didn't fit the choir. Well, I'm a Catholic boy. I was an altar boy. I thought I'd be in any choir.
Yeah.
Me and my girlfriend showed up. We spec'd it. We got the job. So I can't honestly tell you that Central Casting puts the right people in the right place, because they put friends, family, that there's only 3 ways to get into the extra business.
Okay.
One is nepotism. Bottom line, if
Absolutely.
You've got family and friends and they want their sons, grandsons, nephews to get into TV, put them in as an extra so they can learn it, and that's fine. Then you could be the neighbor to a casting director. And if you're a neighbor to an executive producer, I'll put your name in and make you an extra. Then you got the second ones, and those are the ones who come and service actors. If an actor needs this, an actor needs that, and you can bring that to the actor, then they want you on the set so that you can go do things for them. And then there's talent. Very rare. But if you get in as talent, then you're there, but then you're working with all these other people who aren't.
Right.
So, but Central doesn't send all the right people, because it's like the producers casted commercials, which pays the most. But if you went to producers casting and you were a family, they were on all the commercials. The woman's name was Barber, and all the barbers did commercials all the time, the most money. But I went on a job, there were the barbers, but I could dance, and they needed a country western dancer. They put the hat on one barber, he couldn't dance, put the hat on another guy who was a baseball player, he couldn't dance. I took the hat, put it on, got it. I got $30,000 in an upgrade at being in the commercial. But again, I was put on to dance, and they all said they could dance, and they would have got the upgrade. But I got it, and then they didn't want to give me the upgrade.
Yeah, because your talent outshined everyone else.
And that's what they needed. The director's girlfriend was one of the dancers, and she hated the guy she was dancing with, who was in Best Little Whorehouse in Texas on Broadway. And she didn't like the way he danced. And bam, they gave it to me. But then they said, don't get the contract. Just do us a favor, and we'll take care of you in the future.
Right.
I never got another commercial through Producers Casting again. So they would have had to give me 100 days work to make $30,000 as an extra. And that wasn't going to happen.
No.
So being an extra is just a day of negotiation. The jobs were fun. The negotiating and the whispering and what people did. People don't understand what you had to do extra. You had to call in every day, 10 times a day, to try to get a booking for the next day.
Because you were basically an independent contractor.
Independent contractor.
You had to do all of your own negotiating, all of your own everything.
You had to call in every day. I call in every day and they say, no, thank you, no, thank you. And people around me call in, they get a job, they get a job, they get a job. I didn't get a job. And I knew what was happening. But I was one of those guys who just called 20 times a day, even though I knew I was going to get the job. I just was not going to give up. Now, maybe they didn't like that, but, I would think Johnny Disco could be an extra till he's 90. Just let me do, crosses at the airport.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
with that. I could teach anybody in the world how to be an extra in 10 minutes. So that's what I started doing. I started gaffing and controlling what the extras did. And that's what I did for Danny Bilson. And but I mean, you think about it, my bucket list is full of going places, meeting people, and teaching people. And, I doubled a lot of people. And if you look in America, if you see the stuff I doubled, not once was I a nude body double. And there's been, I don't know how many Hollywood stories about women who were nude body doubles.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right. But nobody did a story about me doubling Michael Beck doing a tightrope. Nobody, talked about me doubling Andrew Stevens in the remake of Topper. Mm-hmm. Nobody talks about me doubling, but then they go, that's stunts. Stunts are when you do death-defying things for actors. Right. When you're doubling them as dancers or roller skaters, stuntmen look at that and go, well, that's not a stunt. But if I put half the stuntmen in America on roller skates, they're going to get hurt.
Right.
Yeah, guaranteed.
Well, here's another question. Of all the actors you've worked alongside, is there anyone that you have a special memory of or a horror story about?
Well, one story matches both those things.
We have a question in the chat as well. Let's do that one first. This is from Jesse. He says, any fun MacGyver or Quantum Leap memories?
Any what?
Any fun MacGyver or Quantum Leap memories?
Well, the Quantum Leap was great because I don't know if Jesse, if you saw the show, you saw that roller skating centerfold on Playgirl, and I was a roller skating choreographer. So in the 70s, I roller skated at Flippers, which was the big nightclub, and so I was known as a roller skater and knew all the best roller skaters. So when we did Quantum Leap, I was doing the roller skating thing on that, and then I got invited to a celebrity roller skating party. And while I was there, I just got back from Berlin. And when in Berlin, we did a whole number with the lockers, and we did an army number where we did the backslide like soldiers. And while I was doing that at the celebrity roller skating party, Michael Jackson happened to be there, and he was like 16. And I'm sitting there doing what we call the moonwalk.
Right.
And while I'm doing the moonwalk to all the people there in the concession stand, Michael walked over, tapped me on the shoulder, and says, "What is that?" And I said, "That's the backslide, Michael." He goes, "Why do you do that?" And I go, "It's an illusion." And I showed him, and he went, "Wow." And then he went off his way. I went off my way. Well, later on, I get called to be on Quantum Leap, and they say, "Do you know how to moonwalk?" And I go, "Sure." So he goes back in the past, and he's in the bathroom, and it's the one where he's a race cars driver or something with this young teenager,
Mhm.
and he's in the bathroom, and music kind of starts playing, and he sitting there, and this little boy walks in a tuxedo, and it's supposed to be Michael Jackson when he's 7.
Oh, wow.
And so Scott Bakula does that whole thing that white guys do, back, 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 back with his body, and you see me moonwalk. Then you see
Right, you're the
Michael's
feet.
feet, and he moonwalks. Well, both those moonwalker is me.
Wow.
So I just think it's funny that I showed it to Michael when he was 16 or 17 for the first time. And then I get to go and do it for him in Quantum Leap. And then I get to go do it in Naked Gun. So
Right.
basically, you can honestly say that I'm probably one of the most living moonwalkers in the world that people have seen in the future and will see in the past.
And it
Like,
sounds like you said you just taught Michael Jackson how to moonwalk.
well, no, I actually know who taught Michael Jackson how to moonwalk. It was a young friend of mine who was in Berlin with me when we did the backslide together. So
Okay.
4 years later, Michael hired a white choreographer, and he then brought in this young kid, Jackson, who was with me when we did it. And then he taught Michael. So, because Michael had no use to be doing the backslide when I met him. But then
Right.
when he decided he wanted to do it, he couldn't remember what I showed him. It's like me showing you how to moonwalk, Aaron. And then 4 years later, you decide you want to go moonwalk, and you
Right.
don't remember how.
I need a
And
refresher.
so you go out and find some guy to hire to teach you how to moonwalk, and then you call it moonwalker.
Hmm.
And the moonwalk is not what Michael Jackson does. The moonwalk is something you do with your shoulders, and then you move in a circle. That was the moonwalk in what we know as street dancers. But Michael just turned that move into the moonwalk.
Okay.
So, and Hollywood knew that I was a moonwalker.
Hmm.
But I've been punched 3 times for telling people I was the dancing umpire in Naked Gun because they liked
Just
that part
walking
so
around on the
much.
street, right?
Yeah, I was at a golf tournament actually, and I was talking to my guys I was playing with and told them who I was. And I showed them the moonwalk and said that was me and the dancing umpire. The guy come over, just cocked me, hit me in the face.
Oh my God.
And I came back up and said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Don't you ever take credit for something you didn't do. I hate people who do that."
Oh my God.
And I said, "Well, what am I supposed to do if I did do it? Am I allowed to hit you in the face?" And then my friends held them back. And then that was the first time. The second time, I just took a big slap at me and said, "You should never take credit." Point is that when can you take credit for doing something a movie star did, unless Hollywood tells people that you did it.
Right.
And when I looked it up 10 years after Naked Gun, I looked it up on IMDb and it said Leslie Nielsen takes the lead doing the moonwalk on Naked Gun. Yeah, he took it all right, but he stole it from me. And he didn't steal it by learning it and go do it. But nobody owns the moonwalk because,
No.
as far as I'm concerned, Marcel Marceau did it on Ed Sullivan when he was walking in place and the wind hit him and he moonwalked backwards as the wind took him backwards. And that's really the first time anybody saw the backslide, but it was in vaudeville. So Michael Jackson didn't invent it. I didn't invent it. It's just movement. And I'm the movement master.
Yeah, you are the
So,
movement master.
yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, let's go back to this question I was going to ask you. Of all the actors you've worked alongside, is there anyone you have a special memory or a horror story about?
I would say it's the same thing. It's called Nobody's Perfect. When I was a kid, I loved Oliver. And there was a character in there called Fagin, and he was the old man named Ron Moody. And he was a legendary actor in Europe, and he played Fagin. And I get a call and said, "We want you to meet Ron Moody. He's got to do a Saturday Night Fever thing for Nobody's Perfect." And we thought you could do it. Somebody said, "Did you really good?" And I said, "Sure." And so I brought in 2 girls, and there were 2 actresses and Ron. And then I would have the 2 girls dance with Ron. And then I would choreograph the whole thing. So what I did is we created this whole thing. And so I we're in the studio all by ourselves, and these two big producers come in and sit down, and I go, how you guys doing? They go, good. I go, do you guys want to see what we choreographed? And he goes, well, who are you? And I said, well, I'm Johnny Disco. I put it all together. I just choreographed this. And he says, no, you're not. No, you're not. Paul Gotkin's a choreographer. You're nothing. He said, so we'll just wait till Paul gets here, and then we'll see what he's got. I said, well, Paul hasn't been here. He showed me the album cover. And he asked me if I saw Saturday Night Fever, and I told him, no, Johnny Disco doesn't like Saturday Night Fever. I don't dance like that. I thought that John did a bad job on representing disco. And, if you see the way I dance and see the way he dances, you'll see I never do any of his moves, but he does some of mine. And I was there when he came to Hollywood to do it. So, that's who I am. I was there. And, so I quit. I just walked out.
Yeah.
And so Paul showed up, and they didn't have a choreographer. They had to shoot in 2 days. Then I get a call, and it's Ron Moody. And he says, Johnny, Paul tried to show them what we're doing, and he had no idea what to do. And he says, I need you really bad. We're shooting in 2 days. He said, you got to come back. And I said, well, for you, I'll come back. So I came back, and then the unit manager says, here's what we'll do. We'll give you a SAG contract for 3 days when we shoot. And then you can be there in the background. And then if there's any problems, you can work with Ron. And we love the number you did. So then I end up doing it. And so when you see, I don't think we put that in the clip. It's for the documentary.
Right.
And when you see Ron do the dance with the two girls, he's a 70-year-old man. It's like somebody teaching me now how to dance with two girls. But usually now they'll just have me double 70-year-old because they won't hire me for it. But it turned out to be a horror story, then a SAG discovery story. But it was meeting Ron Moody and being part of that. If you were an Oliver fan like I was, and Fagan was the guy who took advantage of the kids, I always felt like I was one of them kids. And if I would have been homeless, he would have taken me in, and I could have gone steal everything in the world. I probably would have done that. I would have learned from my brother.
Wow.
So yeah, Ron Moody's story was one of my best. Yeah. And the worst, of course, is Streets of Fire.
What happened on Streets of Fire?
Streets of Fire was just hired to dance on the dance floor with the blasters. It was the motorcycle gangs. I was in the motorcycle gang, and they're dancing on the bottom cave place. And I'm dancing and sweating. And I come back the next day, and my shirt was all wet. And I showed it to them and said, and they said, oh, Johnny, sorry, we'll get it dry cleaned tomorrow. And I thought, okay. So I wear this wet shirt back in there. I'm standing around. We do the first scene. Then I go upstairs, and I mentioned to the first assistant director that, they only gave me $10 yesterday, and you gave the guys throwing me around and asked for 20. He says, oh, yeah. I said, I remember that. And I said, well, do you think I should get 20? He goes, well, yeah, I'll give you 20. Oh, great. So now I'm getting 20. So I'll get 20 more. No big deal, but it's only $10 more. And I go upstairs, and next thing you know, the second assistant director, she comes up and says, Johnny, I talk to you. And I said, what? She goes, you're fired. You're fired. I go, what? She goes, you're fired. You're not coming back. And it was supposed to be 2 weeks of work. And I said, why? She goes, you went over my head. I gave you $10. And you went over and you had to first give you $10 more. You don't get $20. You get 10. So when this day is over, you're fired. You don't come back.
Whoa.
Then they called us all downstairs, and I'm standing on the dance floor, and Walter Hill, this great director, he goes, action. And I'm not dancing. And he goes, cut. Why aren't you dancing? And I said, ask her. It's $10. I'm fired. I can go in the back and drink and just wait till the day's over. I don't need to dance anymore. I don't get the $10. Well, this started a whole conversation between the first and the director, second, and it went on for 10, 15 minutes. And all of a sudden, the big producer, Joe Silver, comes running down. He looks at me and says, who the hell are you? But use another word. You're stopping my set. You're costing me money. I need to talk to you. Come in this other room. He took me in the other room, shut the door, and just punched me right in the chest
Oh my God.
and told me, you're screwing up my set. You're costing me money. You are fired. And bam, pop in the chest. And I went running up the chair step, just screaming and yelling, you don't hit extras. You never punch an extra. This is so wrong. And I left.
Wow.
So I was fired. And the next day I get a call from SEG, which is the Screen Extras Guild. And they call me in the office and ask me to come in because they're going to suspend me from the extra business and take my card away. And I went, why? And they go, you punched a producer. You can't punch a producer. I said, isn't that funny? That's what I screamed and yelled when he punched me. He said, what? I go, he punched me. I didn't punch him. I said, 20 witnesses heard this, that he punched me.
Right.
He said, stay by your phone. I'm going to get it behind this. So I almost got kicked out of the extra business. And then about an hour later, my phone rings and it's Joe Silver. And he's apologizing, saying he had a bad day. He just, decided to take it out on me.
Wow. I mean, I can't believe that got resolved that way, that they didn't just take his word.
And that was right after my girlfriend ran off with the movie star.
Okay.
So now Central Casting has another reason of not to work me. That I'm violent. And I got punched.
Right.
But, it came in that I punched him and I went throughout the business. Johnny Disco punched somebody yesterday, but I didn't. And everybody knows I didn't. So they apologized. But once you're already in the limelight with those casting people, let's just keep Johnny off the sets. And they knew that my girlfriend ran off with a movie star, so we don't know what Johnny's going to do. They kind of made me really famous, but not being able to work as an extra was really bizarre because they still had me call in every day looking for work, but there was never a job. And how could Johnny Disco think there's no work for me? And then I hear from other people where the jobs were, and then I go on interviews and I get the job, so that a lot of those jobs you see were me specking because Central wouldn't send me.
Right.
But again, the movies where they say, that guy's right out of Central Casting. That's exactly who I was. You need a softball player, Johnny Disco. You need a bowler, Johnny Disco. You need a golfer. I doubled Pierce Brosnan in one of his TV shows where all I had to do was hit a par 3. They just gave me an iron and 25 balls and said, practice until we get over there. And they come over and they go, can you hit the green? Of course I can. I've been practicing all day. Action. Hit the green, put it 5 feet from the pin, cut. Thank you, Johnny. Bye. But Pierce Brosnan didn't have to show up that day. He did not have to do that scene. And that scene was done, and he looked like a pro.
Wow.
Now, either I'm lucky or I'm a movement master. I like to say that I was a movement master.
Yeah. We've got another
And
question.
the Invisible Man. Yeah, and the Invisible Man.
Right. We've got a question from the chat here. Body Double is on the list of films that you were in. Is that Brian De Palma's Body Double from 1984?
No, Body Double was the name of a movie. And the movie was shot at Barney's Beanery.
Is that from 1984 or is it a different movie?
No, Body Double is a different movie completely. It was one of his big movies. It was about a psycho. And I just sat at the bar next to him when he was sitting there. So I played pool in that and just sat at the bar and was about 10 feet from Brian De Palma screaming and yelling at his actors all day.
It was with Brian De Palma.
Oh yeah. Oh no, he was 10 feet from on the bar.
Okay.
And I was the guy at the bar with him. But there was only like 20 of us there, and then only 5 of us worked in the scene.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no. But again, it is funny that I became this huge body double, and I was in Body Double. And then I worked they moved it over to a restaurant, and Michelle Pfeiffer or something was in it, and her boyfriend showed up, and they put him in the scene, and then he left. And then they needed him again, and they just walked through the crowd, and looked at me and said, "Johnny, get over here." And it was Rocky Echevarria who was in a movie with Al Pacino, and so Michelle comes over to me and says, "You're going to double my boyfriend now because he's not here." So she gave me a jacket, says, "Put it on." And then I doubled her boyfriend. And the first thing she says is, "Don't smoke. He hates smoking." And the first thing I did is walk outside and have a cigarette. He shouldn't have left. But that just shows you how jobs just come up like that. You never know what some actor is going to do or can't do. And next thing you know, you're doing it.
Right.
I like the jobs where I do.
We've got about 10 minutes left. Is there anything else you'd like to share that you want, the audience to know about specifically, especially after watching our 26-minute tribute?
Well, things that people don't know is that I took my when my dance partner left me. When I met her, she was with Gabe Kaplan, who was in Welcome Back, Kotter, and he was a comedian.
Mhm.
So when we broke up, I decided that I was working on Rhinestone as a meatball guy in the audience when he was singing. Was one of those movies Sylvester Stallone probably shouldn't have done. And I decided I was going to do comedy. So I gave her a call, and she says, "What are you doing?" She goes, "I'm with what's his name? Some big actor. I mean, big comedian. I keep thinking Seinfeld, but not him. I forgot his name. But I called and I said, "What night is Comedy Store have amateur night?" He says, "Tonight." "Why?" He goes, "Johnny's going to go do comedy." He goes, "Is he funny?" She goes, "He thinks he is." So I went and signed up at the Comedy Store, and they called my name out, Johnny Disco, and everybody laughed. All the people trying to do comedy laughed. So I went in, did 3 minutes, and Mitzi picked me up and made me a non-paid regular. And I went in and did a dance comedy act in the 70s, and it was called Dance Like a Black Man, You Can Meet White Women. And that turned out to be a man ahead of his time. And that's when I decided that I was going to do like Will Rogers. I was going to be Will Rogers without a rope, and I'll just start using my movement and make people laugh based on how to dance like a white man. Because right now, white men don't dance too well. It's not that I'm really good. It's just all the other white guys are so bad.
And you believe that can be taught, right?
Well, I teach rhythm. People are mistaken. White people say they don't have rhythm. When white men don't want to dance, they basically have an excuse. As soon as they have an excuse, they use it. I have 2 left feet. Well, if you have 2 left feet, run down the street. If you can get down the street and not run in circles, and you don't have 2 left feet, they say they don't have any rhythm. Rhythm has nothing to do with dance. I teach perfect movement. It's called visual acceptability. My moves are visually acceptable. And when I teach you a perfect move, no music, I teach you the move, backwards and forwards. Now I apply the music, which is the rhythm. So now you're doing the move, you go fast, you'll do it fast. If I go slow, you do it slow. If I make it funky, you do it funky. The point is, the move has nothing to do with the rhythm. Once you have a move down, you do it with the rhythm that I set for you. And now I've taught you rhythm. And now all you do is go out and collect your moves. And most people, if they say they can't dance, just say one thing: show me your best move. And they don't have one. And there's your problem. Nobody ever taught them a move. And I have so many different moves that I could teach everybody a move. And so what I do is I call it cross dancing. And a cross dancer is like a cross dresser. And that means that if I want to go out and dance African American style of dance, I'll go out and to get funky. If I want to go out and I'm in a gay bar scene, I'm going to dance in a feminine way. If I'm going to a Latino bar, I dance salsa. If I go to a cowboy bar, I dance the two-step. And that worked out for me really well. Unless you get drunk and you go into the wrong bar and do the wrong dance. It's like going to Paragould, Arkansas and dancing to Jungle Boogie and you brought the song. It's
Right.
not going to work. I tried that.
Yeah.
But I've danced all over the world, all over the United States, and I've done dance contests. And I can tell you that in a 15-year period, I either went out dancing every night in dance contests or exhibition places, or I worked on television or movies in dance sequences for the American public. So basically, I spent most of that 15 years just in nightclubs in the morning and then the night. And that's where all the experience and knowledge comes from.
Yeah.
And I hope people see that and they go, wow, I mean, I'm hoping that I want to do a one-man show, and it's called The Adventures of Johnny Disco and an Extra's Vision. And I take you through the vision of what I saw, what I heard, and what I know, and how it happened. And I'm trying to get other young people to know what they're in for if they're going to do background work in America. I believe that any job you have in America is a job you should be proud of. And I will not take people going out and go, woo. This is one of my jokes. I remember walking into a 7-Eleven and I was late at a stop and go. And I was in a hurry. And I walked up to the guy working there and I said, "Good, can you hurry up? I got to go." I said, "I'm so tired. I just worked on a film. I've been on it 10 days in a row. We worked 14 hours a day. I need 2 packs of cigarettes. And if you could hurry, I'd appreciate it." "Ooh, you just worked on a film?" And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "Wow." He goes, "I'm an actor too. You can have the cigarettes." And I said, "Well, thanks." I said, "But I'm doing extra work." He said, "Give me $7.50. I said, "Why?"
Real quick.
I said, "Why would you do that?" He said, "Because my agent told me don't ever do extra work." I said, "Well, my agent told me not to work at 7-Eleven. I mean, this is, that's, I shouldn't be doing stop and go. I mean, I'd rather do extra work and learning what I'm going to do as an actor than be working as a waiter in a restaurant. Say I'm an actor, and yet as a waiter, you're only practicing to play a waiter. If you're doing extra work, you're in there working and on the sets and watching how it does. But I didn't know that doing extra work makes you oversaturated. I was overseen in Hollywood on show after show after show that they couldn't bring me in as a guest star on anything.
Right.
So nobody would sign me. So then I said, "Oh, I'm going to be a comedian." And that worked out pretty well until the white people said, "You can't be talking about black people like that." So I went to an all black club and did comedy and opened up for Robin Harris and so many different actors. Sam Kinison, I've worked with him and so many of them.
Wow.
And, just it's good to be Johnny Disco. I'm 70 and still dancing too. I'll take you all on.
Wow.
Any more
Well,
questions?
thank you, Johnny. I think that's all the questions we've got and about all the time we have. But I want to thank you for being here and joining us at the 10-year anniversary of the Chattanooga Film Festival. I couldn't imagine a better time to share your story and to invite you on to just talk about everything that you've been doing. I hope everyone keeps an eye out for the documentary we're putting together. Hopefully, we will have it in next year's festival. But if not, we will be showing it somewhere. So visit the website, johnnydisco.com. You can sign up for a newsletter. You can send messages to Johnny Disco. You can see pictures and so much more. Is there anything you'd like to say? Final words, Disco?
No, I just want to thank Chris Dortch for inviting me, and I had a great time and watching the other work that people have done. And I thought the film festival was really good. I didn't do too much talking in Discord because I don't work really well with my phone. I can't see that good, and the printing is too small for me. And I don't like to have it. And I don't like having my phone with big letters on it. And people going, "Oh, he is old,"
Yeah, well, people can
So,
contact you through the website, and yes, I agree. Thank Chris Dortch and all of the volunteers and everyone that helps put this together every year. It really is a blessing that this exists, especially in Chattanooga. But
well,
thank
thank
you,
you,
everyone.
Aaron.
Yeah, thank you, Johnny Disco.
And we'll see everybody later. If you need any questions or anything, email me and I'll give you the answer
Awesome.
with honesty and truth.
All right. All right.
All right.
Thank
Perfect.
you, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye.